Fair use. We're going to get into why Briahna Gray was canceled from the Hill.
And I really hope that you specifically will believe women when they say that they got hurt.
All right, thanks for joining.
Wow. Let's watch that again.
And I really hope that you specifically will believe women when they say that they got hurt.
All right, thanks for joining. Stick around, more Rising coming up next.
Briahna Joy Gray fired from the Hill days after rolling her eyes at sister of October 7th hostage during interview. A political commentator was sacked for the Hill days after rolling her eyes while interviewing the sister of an Israeli abducted on October 7th victim. It finally happened. The Hill has fired me. Briahna Joy Gray wrote on X Thursday, there should be no doubt that Rising Hill has a clear pattern of suppressing speech, particularly when it's critical of the state of Israel. An outlet spokesperson also confirmed to the Post she was no longer employed at the Hill. In a follow-up tweet, Gray said her firing was clearly part of a coordinated effort. No, you did this to yourself. Okay. I mean, I rolling the sister of someone that was kidnapped by Hamas, that is just perfect career suicide. All right. Gray said she had no additional comment when reached by the Post Thursday evening. Gray, Senator Bernie Sanders, former press secretary during the 2020 election, was slammed for her treatment of Yarden Gonen, the sister of Romy Gonen, who was kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th during an interview on Tuesday. When Yarden Gonen told Gray that she hopes she believes female victims who say they were sexually assaulted by Hamas terrorists, Gray rolled her eyes and abruptly ended the interview, the video shows. I really hope that you specifically will believe women who say they got hurt, Gonen said. Gray lets out a sigh, appearing to roll her eye. All right, thanks for joining. Stick around as Gonen's still trying to get a word in. I mean, I hope it was worth it. I really do. Maybe Biden will give you a desk job. Romy Gordon, 23, called her mother while she was in the car fleeing the Nova Music Festival on October 7th and ambushed by Hamas militants. Her best friend, Gaia Halifa, 24, lay dying in front of her. Yarden Gonen told The Hill that the last she heard about her sister was during the November ceasefire deal, when some released hostages recounted some horrifying things they experienced. The released hostages told her they saw Romy on October 7th being dragged by her hair with a wounded arm. At one point, she was knocked unconscious after the militant hit her with his weapon. This is how you treat people? This is how you treat people? Yarden asked on the program. This is the only things that happened to my little sister on October 7th. And from then, we don't know what else. Gonen said she didn't want to talk politics when pressed about the situation in Israel by Gray, telling her that she was only there to tell her sister's story. That's it. Stick to the script. Stay focused. Everyone in Israel is not going to, be informed about the politics. Okay? When Gonen was asked if she felt that Netanyahu was prioritizing his political aspirations over the lives of hostages, she said it was not her profession to comment. I'm here to talk about my sister. Please help me spread her story. Help me make people understand what she is going through as a woman in 2024, she said. Gray's demeanor during the interview outraged viewers online. On the clip circulated on social media, Hen Mazik, the founder of the Tel Aviv Institute, wrote The Hill's at Bri Bree Joy rolling her eyes and sighing after Yarden sister of a hostage in Gaza, asking her to believe rape victims. No low, this person won't sig is truly disgusting, he added. And the saddest thing about this is the fact that a lot of people really don't know the history of how this war actually started. Okay. And for her to, just defend Hamas, a terrorist organization, come on now. And she had no empathy. She felt that she was in the right to roll your eyes at someone who's suffering, whose sister, they're in distress and want to have their sister come home safely. You can't empathize. You can't do your job. Like I said, I hope it was worth it. I really do. I hope it was worth it. And I hope that Joe Biden, whatever powerful left-wing official, public figure could help you get a job, because I doubt you will get another job doing what you're doing. If this is how you react when a woman is talking to you about sexual assault, you're a fellow woman. You can't have empathy at all. All right. So the next story, we'll be talking about how Joy Reid basically clowned Brian Donalds. Okay. As he has denied that he's for Jim Crow.
Could not protect his wife from rape, could not protect his son from lynching. So again, why would you quote that era and say that at that time, the family all being in the home together was something we should think of as a good thing?
Well, first of all, Joy, the story you bring up and you're bringing up is a tragedy. One of the great tragedies of the Jim Crow era. This is why those policies they were disgusting and distasteful. All I was talking about, Joy, was the
benefit of a man in the family. Again, sir, I'm sorry, I let you talk for a long time. Sorry, no. Talk over you. You've gotten a chance to speak a lot, Congressman.
You got a chance to speak. Just answer the question. That's it. You went into a long, well, first of all, that's a very terrible. No, answer the question. That's it. That's all she wanted was the answer to her question. And you decided to do a song and dance. How was this benefit to the black family during the Jim Crow era? How was it beneficial? When unemployment was, was at an all-time high, discrimination because you were born with black skin was off the charts. Okay. And that's not mentioned. Not all these black families were healthy. Some of these women had to suffer with abusive husbands and they couldn't leave. So how was that a good thing? Mr. Donalds, how is that a good thing? It is a disgusting thing that you have to be a politician. You have to lie. All right. But it's even more disgusting when you are a black politician and you say you're just a Klan member with a tan. That's basically what it is. Just a regular Candace Owens. Okay. In a man's body. That you have to just say the most gross and egregious things against your ethnic group. Slavery wasn't that bad. The Jim Crow era wasn't that bad. Black people at least were together. Anything for a paycheck. There's no difference between them and a prostitute.
You're going to answer my question now and not filibuster. This is the question you want. This is the question you need to answer.
That's what I'm trying to answer. That's what I'm trying to answer, Joy.
Give me a second. Take a breath. Take a breath. If a black man could not protect, it's my show. If a black man, a black father, could not protect his wife, his son, or himself from lynching and violence, how is him being in the home mean that is an era that was better for the black family, or that we should think of as a good thing?
First of all, Joy, I never said that it was better for black people in Jim Crow. I have never said that, and even my own words say that. If you're talking about the importance of black fathers in the home, or frankly, all fathers in the home, it is always for the betterment of children to have.
You know what? You will never see a black person say, or a Jewish person say, you know what? During the Holocaust or being in the concentration camps, at least the Jewish men were in the family. At least the family stuck together at that time, Or when they had the Japanese internment camps in World War II, when, the Pearl Harbor incident happened, right? At least the Japanese men were with their families, okay? At least the Japanese man was in the home, in the internment camps. It was bad for them, but they were in the home. That's right. Dad was there, toughing it out with you. Okay? You will never, ever have that come out of a Japanese man's mouth being in the political arena for Republican. Or a Jewish man say that about his people. Or Hispanic. But a black man, you just give him a suit. Okay? He'll be your slave. Pay top dollar, he'll be your slave. He will talk that mess, boy. He will talk that mess. Shuck and jive, be a minstrel. All right. No, Joy Reid, I am not a Democrat. Okay. So I know she's a puppet too. But the reality is, you shouldn't be saying that, sir. Talking about strong black men and no, no, because I know you wouldn't want to be born in those times, sir. You wouldn't want to come home and, your wife is getting assaulted by a bunch of white men. And they just leave and they could do that whenever they want, using your wife as their own public bathroom, their own water hole like that, sir. But you see, this is how, the Republican Party is. They have puppets. And his wife is white. Okay, by the way. And I shudder about how the dynamic is at his house. I shudder. I cringe. Because I wouldn't be surprised if she's running. I'm just saying, just Not saying it is like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the house he lives in. That when her white side family comes over, he has to be a little mouse to show her dominance. That you married not for love, not for respect. You married for convenience, for power. Slavery has many different forms I'm seeing in this present era.
Have leadership, yes, for safety. So having two people in a home to help provide the economic needs.
How were they able to provide economic means at that time with the Jim Crow era? How were they? When they had unemployment. There was a time where Black women couldn't even really be in the home. They had to work as maids for white women, for white households, and it was the law. If you refuse, you go to jail. Okay? So I just like to know, how was that profitable? How was that a benefit for the Black family? When basically the racist whites could make up any law to just do what they want with you. Do what they want with your kids. Kidnap them, molest them, and sell them, or just give them away as Christmas presents if they could get away with it. How was this beneficial?
For those children so the family can succeed. That is a wonderful thing. We should always get back to that, not to Jim Crow. And this is the point of the gaslighting and the lying that is occurring with what I said. Don't try to impose the fact that the marriage rates were better in the higher, I want to be clear, higher in the Jim Crow era to mean that I think Jim Crow is great. That is a lie. That is gaslighting. I would never say such a thing, which is why the Jim Crow era was destructive of Black people.
You brought it up. You're the one who...
Like I said, some of these marriages was not great. Under that type of stress and type of era, a lot of men, because they couldn't protect their families, they turned to alcohol, they turned to drugs. Unfortunately, some have turned to violence against their own women, which is not good, not cool. Tell me how this was good. You can't answer the question. Like I said, you will never see a Jewish Republican talk this way, saying the time when the Nazis were around and they could break down your door, and round you up in camps, at least the Jewish man was in the home. Okay? And we were in the internment camps, and any day a Nazi soldier could put 2 bullets in me or take my wife and do whatever wicked way they want. At least the Jewish man was in home. You would never hear them say this nonsense. But here we got a Black man saying,
talking about with the timeline of America, and now you're trying to gaslight like everybody else.
The timeline was when, okay, one more thing. The poverty rate during Jim Crow was 55.1%. More than half of families were impoverished. You also said, and I'm quoting you again, during Jim Crow, more Black people were not just conservative. Black people have always been conservative-minded, but Black people voted conservatively. Black people weren't allowed to vote at all during Jim Crow.
Well, first of all, there were areas in the United States where Black people did vote. It wasn't universal throughout the United States. So let's just be perfectly honest about that. I just told you it was not universal.
We know Jim Crow
there were areas, but
obviously
Black people were suppressed from voting. That's what the purpose of not just the 64 and the 65 voting rights back with so many others. But let's get back to what I was saying.
So you're inaccurate.
All I was talking about is about Black families. No, I'm not being inaccurate.
During Jim Crow, more Black people voted conservative. They didn't vote conservative because they weren't allowed to vote. That is the essence of what Jim Crow is.
So again, Joy, I'm going to come back to my original point. It is talking about the family unit, having more fathers in the home, which creates
Couldn't answer the question.
better people going forward.
Last question, and then I'm going to let you go. Last question. We're out of time,
Sure,
but I'm going to give you one more question. During Jim Crow, could your family have existed? You are in an interracial marriage. Your wife is a white conservative activist. Could your family have existed at all during Jim Crow?
The answer is no. The answer is no. Couldn't have existed at all. All right. Let's hear more about this, Mr. Donalds. People have said that he's not African American, okay? That he is possibly of, Jamaican, West Indian descent. And sad to say, you do have them, they worship the white man. Just being honest, they worship the white man. I'm West Indian and I see that. They do. They do. There will be big time prostitutes for the white man. And if you dare call it out, you will be an enemy to them.
Don't. I look at my father and I say, bro, I don't know what happened, but you my father and I love you. Wow. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. Wow. But I'm going to tell you this. Growing up, the one thing I knew I wanted to do, and this is not about my father, this is about what I wanted to do, is I wanted to be a father to myself. Wow. And so one of the things that's actually happening in our culture.
How could you tell them, how could you be a father to your sons if you don't have a backbone? You don't have a backbone not to do these things. Just basically sell out. This is selling out. All right. I don't know, man. How could you tell, telling your kids that Jim Crow was a great thing? It was a great thing, son. And that's what you said.
What you're now starting to see in our politics is the reinvigoration of black families with younger black men and black women. And that is also helping to breed the revival of a black middle class in America. You see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together. During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people always have been conservative minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then H.E.W., Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are. What's happened in America the last 10 years, and I say it because it's my contemporaries as well as his contemporaries, you're starting to see more black people being married in homes, raising kids. And when you home with your wife raising your kids, and then you look at the world, you're saying, oh, wait a minute, time out.
So I have more video, but let me go ahead and point out one irony here. He said during Jim Crow, black people voted conservatively. Sir, during Jim Crow, black people could not vote. Also, one of the dynamics typically associated with conservative thinking is that when black people did have the right to vote, they voted for conservatives. No, they voted for individuals who were Republicans. But however, the Democratic Party also was racist. And yes, Republicans were racist. And then when black people got more voting power and demanded more progressive policies, those Democrats who were conservative, they decided to become the today Republican. They switched parties because of black people in the party. Thus, you have a party now that has a representative body of government of 98%, 97.6% white overall in the country. All right, so Joy Reid took him to task. Here it is.
Frankly, what's really happened is that you have, Democrats and you have the Biden campaign, and some of the media want to twist my words for political purposes. The overarching issue is talking just about Black families and why you're seeing a trend of Black people leaning towards Republicans in this election cycle and probably in election cycles to come. And part of that, is that when you're raising families, raising kids, etc., you're now thinking about all of the public policy issues, all of the economic issues, all of the education issues. And that's leading people to have divergence in political thoughts. That was the only point. The stuff that comes up about Jim Crow and twisting my words, saying I was being nostalgic or saying that Jim Crow was good for Black people, that's all political spin. It's a lie. It's gaslighting. And that's truly unfortunate.
Congressman, you're truly unfortunate. The reality is nobody brought up Jim Crow but you. You see, some of the other points you made are relevant points. I think they're decent. But when you contextualize those points in the era of Jim Crow, that's when it becomes, well, like a Donald Trump talking point. It is amazing to me that Black Republicans, Black conservatives in particular, will try to, I don't know, outshine white racism by saying things that even white racists would never say on record. I want you to imagine if, let's say, Joe.
Yeah, that's the Candace Owens route. Say things that white racists can't get away with, like Candace Owens saying the things about Hitler. Okay. All right.
Biden would have said such a comment. If Joe Biden would have said that, during Jim Crow, wasn't that bad. I mean, at least Black families were married. Contextualization, Black families, well, yeah, they had technical marriage certificates. Typically, the divorce dynamic or divorce rates weren't as high as they are today for any classification of race, including Black people. But remember, a lot of Black folk did not have access to courts for remedy, especially Black women. As a matter of fact, women in general for many years could not even sign contracts, including divorce decrees, without a man agreeing with them. This is just social context for you to understand the statistics. And during a time in our country's history when divorce was only at a rate of 4%, was during the time when Black people had absolutely no rights in the United States of America whatsoever. So do you mean to tell me that you can equivocate the marriage rate or divorce rate to morality and ethics in the United States of America, because the numbers don't add up there, brother?
Basically, yeah. All right. Basically, what it was about. And it's like I said, it's hilarious how Blacks could just, who want to sell out, will just go. The links they will go to make whites happy. It really is. So let's have a little education right here. All right. Okay. So 8 ways people were kept from voting. Okay. Let's read about, voting rights for Blacks and poor whites in the Jim South. Okay. From 1900 to 1965, most African Americans were not allowed to vote in the South. This was especially true in states considered the Deep South: Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. White people in power used many methods to keep African Americans from voting. Some of these methods also prevented poor whites from voting. Here are the 8 ways people were kept from voting. 1, violence. Blacks who tried to vote were threatened, beaten, and killed. Their families were also harmed. Sometimes their homes were burnt down. Often they lost their jobs or were thrown off their farms. 2, literacy tests. 100 years ago, many people were illiterate, unable to read. Most illiterate people were not allowed to vote. Property tests. In the South, 100 years ago, many states allowed only property owners to vote. Many Blacks and whites had no property and could not vote. 4, grandfather clause. People who could not read and own no property were allowed to vote if their fathers or grandfathers had voted before 1867. Of course, practically no Blacks could vote before 1867. So the grandfather clause worked only for whites. Okay. 5, all white primary elections in the South from about 1900 to about 1960. Democratic candidates typically won elections. Republicans were almost never elected. African Americans were not allowed to vote in the Democratic primary elections. White Democrats said the Democratic Party was a club and did not allow black members, so blacks could not vote in the only elections that mattered. 6. Purges. From time to time, white officials purged the voting rolls. That means they took people's names off the official list of voters. Some voters would arrive at polls and find that they were not restricted to vote. They were not registered to vote. Sorry, not registered to vote. Often they could not register to vote again until after the election. 7. Former prisoners. People who had gone to prison were often not allowed to vote. Blacks were very often arrested on trumped-up charges or for minor offenses. This law kept many blacks voting than whites. 8. Poll taxes. In southern states, people had to pay a poll tax. The taxes were about $25 to $50 in today's money. Many people had extremely low incomes and could not afford this tax. So what is Brian Donalds talking about? What is he talking about? Just being a good old sellout. All right. All right. So let's talk about Chicago right now. What's happening with them? Chicago suburb.
Chicago suburb is facing a lawsuit for paying out reparations to its Chicago suburb is facing a lawsuit for paying out reparations to its black residents. Evanston, Illinois became the first municipality in the U.S. to launch a government-funded reparations program. But a conservative group has filed a class action lawsuit claiming the program discriminates against non-black residents. For more on this, let's bring in Emmanuel Felton. He's a race and ethnicity reporter for the Washington Post who has been covering this story. What are the grounds for this lawsuit?
Yeah, so the conservative group Judicial Watch argues that this program discriminates against non-black residents of Evanston. So under Evanston's reparations program, if you lived in the city between 1919 and 1969, or you're the descendant of someone who did, and you're black, you qualify for reparations, because the argument is during those 50 years, Evanston instituted a bunch of racist, segregationist housing policies that deprive wealth from the black residents of town. So they're saying this is our effort to rebuild the wealth that we deprived from you. Whereas Judicial Watch says, you haven't proved exactly who was harmed by these policies. And so by opening it up to all black residents, you're discriminating against non-black residents. And this is really part of a larger wave of conservative challenges against programs that came up after George Floyd's murder, right? So we're seeing, with the last year's Supreme Court decision in the affirmative action case, that the courts are very weary of these programs that give benefits to certain ethnic groups. And that's sort of having a clash with all of these programs, both in the government and in private sector. Like, just recently this week, a program that was going to give black women in Georgia who were starting businesses grants was struck down by an appellate court. So there's sort of a clash here between, how do we fix our age-old problems of racial discrimination in a way that really satisfies a federal judiciary that's really only interested in race-blind policy.
Do you think the city will fight this all the way? I mean, what are they vowing to do?
That's what they're saying. They refuse to comment for the story, citing pending litigation, but they're saying they vehemently support this program, and they're looking to fight it all the way up. And, it's a program that they're very proud of. Evanston is very...
My thing is this, right? Every ethnic group has gotten some compensation for whatever tragedy or trauma they have suffered. The Japanese citizens came to America and were put in those internment camps. They got a settlement. All right. Jews constantly getting money for the Holocaust victims are constantly getting money. All right. All right. But when it comes to the descendants of African Americans who built this country, who are victims of slavery, okay, who built the White House, okay, who built many things in this country, they can't get reparations. They can't get it. Dare do something like this, and you face with a lawsuit. All lives do not matter. Okay. And it's such a war, you know. Republicans don't want you to get reparations. The Democrats will play games, dangle it in your face. You vote for us, we'll give you reparations. No, you won't. Gavin Newsom will have a study, or he will try to have it in a way that the state of California will give reparations, trying to find a way to scare people, bankrupt California. This is how it is. Both sides don't care. All right? Both sides do not care. If you dare try to do anything, if black people dare try to do something, that for the people, for black people, sorry, this is what you get. This is what you get. Chicago's suburb just sued for that, for doing the right thing for blacks. They want black people as a permanent underclass. That's what they want. By any means necessary.
Very proud of being the first in the nation to institute something like this. But when you're the first, you open yourself up to challenges that, hopefully, if you're the second or third, you've learned from what didn't work for the first.
The people are at the center of this, who would be the recipients of reparations. What are they telling you about this legal fight?
Yeah, well, it's already happened. So Evanston's already paid nearly 200 people $25,000 each. So this is something that is already changing lives in Evanston. The question is, for all the people who were, so essentially how it worked is they pulled like bingo balls. And so if you were later in the poll, you were later in the wait list. So there's still hundreds of people on this wait list. And the question is what it will mean for them. It's already
all right. That's wild, man. I mean, what they're doing is it's pretty much disgusting when it comes to that. Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about park officers handcuffing a 14-year-old accused of illegally selling fruit.
A parks enforcement officer trying to arrest and handcuff a child accused of illegally selling fruit alongside her mother. Now, all of this going down in Battery Park yesterday in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, Fox 5's Linda Schmidt takes a closer look at how this all unfolded and has reaction.
It was a chaotic scene about 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon in Battery Park. City park officers trying to handcuff a 14-year-old girl who was illegally selling fruit with her mother. Authorities say some of that food was unsafe to eat. A disturbing sight, though, for passersby. Bystanders intervened and tried to pull the girl away from the park officer, and they both fell to the ground.
My thing is this, okay, these people have to be sent back because they are a danger not just to themselves, but to other people. You're selling fruit that is not good to eat. You're going to get somebody sick. People are going to get mad at you, and you're putting yourself in danger. A lot of these people want to be pro-migrants coming over. No. They have no skills. They have no resources. They're going to do whatever they do to survive. I've had stories with coworkers how they would you find them just grilling meat, and you don't know how they're properly cleaning the meat. You don't know what they're doing to the meat, but they want to sell it to people. Okay? These people don't care about you. They're looking to make money any way they can, even if it means of getting you sick.
I still think violence is not the answer. There definitely should be better options.
It's a child. No. Okay, these are cops. That's their job, to get you, to arrest you. She's selling rotten fruit. They're not listening to come with the cops. So what do you think is going to happen? The force is going to have to be implemented.
So I feel like this is not okay.
I saw the video.
Mayor Adams defending the park officers and the NYPD.
The parent there is a habitual abuser of it, and she has been told several times, and she refused to comply.
The city parks department tells Fox 5 that the officer involved has been assigned administrative duties while an investigation is underway, and issued this statement saying, in part, when individuals have repeatedly flouted the law, we take additional enforcement actions, and there are instances when it is necessary to place violators and individuals obstructing the law under arrest.
They had to do what they had to do. Everybody wants to be so kid gloves with these migrants. But if you were to go into their country and sell rotten fruit, you probably wouldn't be alive, because their laws are a lot stricter than the laws in the West. You have a compassion for people that don't really care about you. Now, I'm not saying don't have compassion, but we have to understand that these people don't really care about you. They're here to try to make money. They're selling candy in the subway station. People buying the candy. You don't know if that candy's expired. You don't know where they got candy. They're selling some types of parts and devices. Okay, you don't know if they stole it. Let me tell you, some of them did steal it. And if the police find that in your car, what happens? You're gonna be in trouble. All right, people don't want to think when it comes to this issue. But speaking of migrants, let's talk about this story right here.
Tonight after getting into a shootout with a suspect on a moped.
Yeah, they were trying to stop him for going the wrong way down a one-way street, and now it's been revealed he's a migrant here illegally from Venezuela.
Fox 5's Michelle Ross has the story from East Elmhurst, Queens, where this all unfolded.
Two NYPD officers leave Elmhurst Hospital hours after they were both shot by a suspect early Monday morning. Officer Richard Yaruso.
The cops should not have to be dealing with this, and this cop has no business in a chair. If they cared so much, make sure, close the border. Close the border. This cop should not even have to be in a wheelchair. These two cops shouldn't even have to deal with this. They shouldn't have to deal with this. But there's money to be made having these illegals out here in this country. Whether they're going to be cutting your grass, whether it's paid dirt cheap labor, working in your warehouses and you don't have to pay them the same amount you would pay an American-born citizen for labor. All right? It's basically what it is.
So pushes his partner, Christopher Abreu, in a wheelchair.
This is a bullet hole because of this vest. young police officers going home.
The NYPD says the suspect came here illegally from Venezuela. He's identified as 19-year-old Bernardo Raul Castro Mato, and police say he came to the U.S. through the Texas border last July. The NYPD officers he shot at were working to address robbery patterns on mopeds and scooters in Queens. Police say it was near 23rd Avenue when they saw him riding a moped the wrong way on a one-way street. And when they tried to stop him, he ran away.
During the pursuit, the suspect fired multiple rounds at our officers, who then returned fire.
The illegal gun was recovered at the scene. The NYPD says he has no prior arrests in New York City, but is a suspect in several robbery patterns in Queens.
Similar scooters and bikes are being used citywide to commit crimes. These crimes include shootings, robberies, and phone snatches.
Police say he's staying at this hotel around the block being used as a shelter. Parked in front are dozens of scooters. One migrant from Colombia staying here says most of them use the bikes to make a living for their families. He says in Spanish, the majority use the motorcycles to provide and make money. And the NYPD has seen a spike in crimes on mopeds from 0 to 80 robbery patterns. That's from the first half of the year 2022 compared to the first half of this year. And those 80 robbery patterns make up hundreds of incidents.
This is what goes on in New York. All right. This is what is going on. It's becoming the wild, wild west over here. Give me 1 minute. Give me one. All right, since we're talking about migrants, here's another story.
This man a monster and described the blood-curdling screams and the body cam footage that made even the most seasoned shake at the LA County Sheriff's Department. This is a first look at the suspected serial rapist, 39-year-old Eduardo Sarabia. Investigators say he's a transient and illegal immigrant from Mexico, now locked up with no bail. LASD investigators strongly believe the 2 rapes he's charged with are not the only ones. Sarabia is formally charged with 2 felony counts of sexual assault for forcible rape of a woman just a few days ago on Sunday, May 12th, and a 26-year-old woman on Monday the 13th. 2 heroic deputies caught him in the act inside a white van in the San Gabriel Mountains and arrested him yesterday. There are a lot of very disturbing and heartbreaking details surrounding these 2 incidents that sound straight out of a horror movie, but we can't release them yet without jeopardizing LASD's case. This is a look at that, quote, rape dungeon on wheels, a van they say disgustingly outfitted for rape. It's a 2015 Ford Transit van, essentially a mobile cage with no windows in the back. Now a crime scene on wheels filled with evidence and under 24-hour surveillance in the LASD San Dimas parking lot. And this is where Sarabia would take his victims at night, a dark, scary, remote location in the Angeles National Forest with no chance of a cell signal. It's up Highway 39 in Azusa Canyon at mile marker 21 in a pitch black dirt turnout. It's frankly a miracle that the deputies even found the van described from the first rape victim in the remote area of the mountains where LASD is drastic.
Look at this place. Look at this place. And you can't get a cell phone signal? Who? This is a serial killer's wet dream.
critically understaffed, and people who do live in the area are begging for more law enforcement officers to help patrol it and keep them safe.
It's insane, man. It is insane. Okay. And just to think about it, we had 4 power outages. Okay. I'm sorry. We had power outages in 4 states a couple of months ago. So imagine when they say we're going to have this cyber attack, which they claim is going to be from, a foreign entity, a foreign country, but it's really going to be from the U.S. government. Imagine when that happens. Imagine that. It's really going to be a horrible, horrible time in America when that happens. And you have all that mountains. Okay. All those mountains right there for some sicko to do what they want to do. And police are not going to work for free. Remember, banks are shutting down left and right. All right. It's going to be horrible. Here's the last I'll do. Residents of New York City building scared after clash with squatters sparked double homicide. Residents of Bronx apartment building taken over by rowdy squatters were left shaken Thursday, days after a troublesome migrant allegedly gunned down 2 tenants, with one local pledging to move out. The Fordham Heights building, a one-time shelter, has been plagued by simmering tensions between long-term tenants and a mob of migrants who took over parts of the building this year, with the beef leading to bloodshed with the fatal shooting on May 24th, sources and residents said. Police are now looking for Venezuelan migrant Josu Ruben Silva, 21, who has amassed a troubling rap sheet this year after crossing the U.S. legally last year, sources said. I'm scared, one 27-year-old resident told the Post. I don't go over to their side of the building. I'm afraid of them. I'm getting out of here. This is not an environment to raise a kid. They have a gun inside the building, she added. Nobody was expecting that. They could have shot and killed other people in the building too. They have guns in the building with kids, people going and coming. That's not safe. Neighbors said the migrants moved into one apartment and remained after the original tenant left, and then moved into another vacant unit and have never left, despite an earlier raid by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in March. They had their clothes in the lobby and they were holding a few of them, the tenant said. They were some women and kids. They took a few of them. We thought they were gone, but they came back here. On May 24th, Tenant Khalitha Davis, 44, told her friends one of the migrants made a disrespectful comment to her and summoned her friends. NYPD Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenney said this week. The offending migrant also called his pals, and the two groups got into fisticuffs. But when one asylum seeker was taking a beating, Silva pulled out a gun and opened fire. Daniels and her boyfriend, Justin Lawless, were struck in the chest and were mortally wounded, while their third resident, Everett Slade, was shot in the arm. Silva, whose sources close to the case said crossed the U.S. border with Mexico illegally in May 2023, using a different name and identity, and identifying himself as a 17-year-old, then took off and remains on the loose. The wanted accused killer had already been busted a half dozen times this year on a slew of robbery and theft charges, and was part of a migrant mob crew of crooks that have plagued the Big Apple, sources said. According to police data, the use of mopeds and other two-wheeled vehicles to flee felony crimes has skyrocketed in the 5 boroughs in recent years. It is at an all-time high. The stats show that the 7 major crimes, scooters and motorcycles or mopeds, were used as a getaway vehicle 790 times so far this year, a huge jump from just 156 times over the same span in 2022. Silvio, meanwhile, remains on the run. That's not right, not at all, resident Stephen Colin said Thursday. He should be punished for what he did. Taking multiple lives is not okay. Leaving a child without a mother and father is not okay. Memorial now sits outside the building in memory of the victims. That was my boy, resident Jose Lopez said of Lawless. He was a good dude, quiet, always with his son, who looks just like him. The little kid's mom died, and that's when he took the boy. That's all he had. I'm going to miss him, said Lopez 64. A lot of people you don't see no more, but you think about them all the time. It's sad. It's messed up. It really is. This is all in Eric Adams' hands. All this blood is on Eric Adams' hands. All of it. I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't hear nothing, man. What he did by letting these migrants in here, it's unacceptable. Who knows how many reports are not reported? It's a sad situation, man. It really is. And a lot of people are suffering because of it. On to the next story. Ain't got time for another one. Nah, I'll do it the next one. Another time. All right. That's it for now, people. Anything you want to know about this channel? It's in the description box. Share the content. Let people know about what's going on. And let's have a discussion in the comments section, okay? Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Later.